Picture two women at the same brunch table, same building, same rent, same friend group. The first one's card gets declined. She laughs it off. A bank hiccup, nothing more. But for a second, her face says otherwise. Delivery boxes stacked by her door, still unopened. A bank balance she's basically guessing at. She makes $92,000 a year, and she's 2 missed paychecks from real trouble. The second one's card gets declined too. Same hour. She laughs, taps a different card, forgets about it by the time the check arrives. Not because she's careless, because she knows exactly what's in every account she owns. She makes $54,000, almost half as much. But she has 11 months of expenses saved. A fifth of every paycheck goes straight into investments before she even sees it. Same building, same rent, half the income, roughly 10 times the security. That's not luck. It comes down to about 10 decisions, made over and over until they stopped feeling like decisions at all. Today, I'm giving you all 10. Not vague advice, rules that survive a bad week. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which woman you've been. None of what's coming is about willpower. It's not about being naturally gifted with money either. The difference between those two women was never one big decision. It was the same handful of small ones, repeated over and over, until neither of them had to think about it anymore. That's actually good news. It means you don't need to overhaul your life tonight. You just need to know which 10 decisions matter and start making them on purpose instead of by accident. Rule 1, track it or lose it. Here's the real first difference between those two women. Not investing knowledge, not a 6-figure side hustle. One of them checks her bank balance every single week. The other avoids it like it's going to yell at her. That's it. That's the entire starting line. Not knowing your number doesn't make the number smaller. It just delays when you find out. And by then, it's usually more expensive. The overdraft fee that runs around $35 a pop. The subscription you forgot about 11 months ago. The balance that's lower than you thought, right when you needed it not to be. Take two coworkers with the same salary. One opens her banking app every Sunday night. 5 quiet minutes, no drama. The other hasn't looked in 3 weeks. She has a rough idea. She'd rather not know for sure. Guess which one catches the subscription that quietly doubled in price? Before it costs her $400 instead of $40. Checking in weekly isn't about guilt. It's just information. You cannot fix what you refuse to look at. The woman who has her life together isn't smarter than you. She's just stopped being surprised by her own bank account. Rule 2, spend less than you earn. Everything else is commentary. I know. It sounds too obvious to even count as a rule. But watch how many people you know get a raise and somehow feel just as broke 18 months later. That's not bad luck. That's lifestyle expanding as fast as income, sometimes faster. Researchers call it lifestyle creep. Spending rises right alongside income, almost dollar for dollar, unless someone actively stops it. Picture two friends. Same $10,000 raise, same year. One keeps her spending exactly where it was, redirects the whole raise into savings. The other upgrades her apartment, her car payment, her routine little treats. A year later, she's spending the entire raise. She can't quite say on what. The rule isn't complicated. The execution is what people skip. It's not about deprivation. It's about keeping a gap between what comes in and what goes out. That gap is the only thing that ever builds anything. Savings, investments, options, room to breathe. Without the gap, a raise is just a bigger number you're equally stressed about. Rule 3 is old. It's old because it works. Pay yourself first. Most people build their budget backwards. Rent, bills, groceries, whatever's fun. Savings gets whatever's left over, which is usually nothing. Flip the order. The moment money lands in your account, savings comes out first, like it's just another bill. Not optional, not if there's room. Even 5 or 10% counts to start. Right now, the habit matters more than the amount. The amount grows once the habit stops requiring effort. Picture someone who sets her transfer for $200 a month. She feels almost nothing at first. A year later, she checks back. $2,400 is sitting there. She never had to consciously decide to save it. Not once. That's not impressive discipline. That's just what happens when the habit runs before the decision gets a chance to talk her out of it. Rule 4 is the only version of this that survives real life. Make saving automatic and make spending require a decision. Picture two versions of the same payday morning. In one, the money is already split before she's finished her coffee. Savings gone, bills covered. Whatever's left is genuinely hers to spend. No guilt. In the other, one large number sits in checking. She's mentally juggling 11 things she's supposed to do with it before Friday. Same paycheck, One version required 0 decisions, the other required 11, and 11 decisions is exactly the kind of thing that quietly doesn't happen. So flip the friction. Set the transfer to happen without you. Same day your paycheck lands. On the spending side, add friction. Delete the saved card. Don't keep the app installed. Give it even 30 seconds of friction, and half your impulse buys won't survive the walk to go get your wallet. You don't need more willpower. You need a system that doesn't require any. Checking your balance weekly is step 1, but it only tells half the story. A bank balance doesn't know about your credit card debt, or your student loans, or the fact that half of what looks like your money is actually owed to somebody else. Which brings us to Rule 5. Know your net worth, not just your bank balance. Everything you own minus everything you owe. Checked maybe once a month, not obsessively, just enough to know the real number. It's uncomfortable the first time. It's supposed to be. Most people who finally calculate it are surprised. Sometimes badly, sometimes in a genuinely good way. They'd been feeling broke while quietly having more built up than they realized. A notes app with 2 columns is enough. What you own on one side, what you owe on the other. Updated once a month. That's enough to see which direction the line is moving. Nearly half of Americans couldn't cover a surprise expense without going into debt. The typical emergency fund in this country is closer to $5,000 than the $12,000 to $18,000 most advisors recommend. That gap usually isn't about income. It's about never sitting down and calculating the real number. You cannot build wealth off a number you've never actually calculated. Once you know your real number, you hit the next problem fast. Nobody tells you when to stop, which is Rule 6. Define enough before someone else defines it for you. There's no finish line, no voice that tells you you've spent enough on your apartment, your wardrobe, your vacations. Without a number of your own, you'll just keep matching whatever the people around you are doing, or whatever your feed is showing you this week. So decide on purpose before you're standing in the moment. What does enough actually look like for you? Maybe 2 vacations a year, not 4. Maybe 1 skincare routine, not a shelf of half-used ones bought on a whim. Write the number down somewhere you'll actually see it. A vague feeling of enough evaporates the second a sale notification hits your phone. A number you decided on ahead of time is a lot harder to argue with. None of this requires a 6-figure income, by the way. Someone earning $80,000 who spends $45,000 has enormous room to move. She can absorb a bad month, take a real risk, say no to a job that pays well but costs her peace of mind. Someone earning $200,000 who spends $195,000 has almost none of that room, no matter how impressive the offer letter looks. Financial security was never really about the size of the number coming in. It's about the size of the gap you protect once it lands. Here's a mental trick that changes how big purchases feel, almost instantly. Rule 7. Before you buy something big, ask what you're saying no to instead. Not just, can I afford this? But what am I saying no to by saying yes to this? That bag isn't just $300. It might be saying no to a chunk of your emergency fund. Or 6 months of the trip you actually wanted more. Every yes is a no to something else. You just don't usually see the something else. Because it hasn't happened yet. Name it, even for 10 seconds before you check out. That's often enough to change the decision entirely, or at least make you feel good about the ones you still say yes to. Then there's Rule 8, the one people avoid hardest. Check on your debt. Not the vague sense of it, the actual number, the actual interest rate, the actual minimum payment versus what you're really paying. Most people know their debt exists the way you know a dentist appointment is coming, somewhere in the back of their mind, unexamined on purpose. Debt you don't look at doesn't disappear. It just keeps compounding quietly while you do your best not to think about it. Picture someone who finally logs in after months of avoiding it, bracing for the worst number she can imagine. More often than not, the real number is lower than the one she'd been dreading. Not because the debt isn't real, because avoidance always inflates things in the imagination. While you're in there, one more number worth knowing: how much of your available credit you're actually using. Credit scoring models start penalizing you past 30% utilization. The highest scores usually sit in the single digits. Most people have never once checked. It takes about 90 seconds to look up. And here's the part nobody tells you. Once you actually look, it's rarely as bad as the number you built up in your head. Rule 9 has nothing to do with your own habits, and it might matter more than the other 8 combined. The right financial partner multiplies you. The wrong one drains you. Picture 2 women. Same income, same starting point. One partners with someone who's upfront the moment their own debt shows up. Someone who treats "let's look at the numbers together" like a normal Tuesday. 5 years in, their combined net worth has actually grown. They were pulling in the same direction the whole time. The other partner's with someone who goes quiet every time money comes up. Someone mysteriously surprised by statements that shouldn't surprise anyone. 5 years in, she's doing financial damage control for two people. Alone. Same income, same first 8 rules, maybe even followed perfectly on her end. Completely different outcome, because this was never really about her habits. It was about who she let into them. Watch how someone talks about money before you ever combine accounts. The reaction rarely changes once the stakes get higher. It just gets more expensive to ignore. That doesn't mean interrogating every date over dinner. It means noticing, over time, whether money is something you solve together or something one of you quietly hides from the other. And Rule 10 is the one that makes every other rule on this list actually possible. Pick one habit and keep it before you chase 5 new ones. Picture someone who watches a video exactly like this one, decides tonight to fix everything at once: new savings account, new budgeting app, 3 new goals, 4 canceled subscriptions. A vow to check her net worth weekly. 2 weeks later, she's done none of it. Changing 10 habits at once is its own kind of overwhelm. And overwhelm is the fastest route back to doing nothing. Now, picture someone who picks exactly one rule, commits to it for 30 days. Nothing else changes. 30 days later, she adds the next one. A year later, she's quietly doing all 10. Not because she tried to do all 10, because she never tried to do more than one at a time. Most financial plans don't fail because the plan was wrong. They fail because someone tried to do all 10 at once. Burned out in 3 weeks. Quietly gave up on all of them. Pick whichever one bothered you the most while you were watching this. Just that one. Keep it for 30 days. Let it get boring and automatic. Only then, add the next. That's genuinely the entire difference between the plans that work and the ones that quietly die in a notes app by February. And if you got this far and realize you're already doing 3 or 4 of these without ever putting a name to them, that counts. That's a head start most people never notice they have, because most people never slow down long enough to look. So go back to those 2 women from the beginning of this video. The one with the calm bank account and the one still counting down to payday. They were never that different as people. They just made different decisions, over and over, until the decisions stopped feeling like decisions at all. Track it. Spend less than you earn, pay yourself first, automate the saving, add friction to the spending, know your real net worth. Define enough before someone else does it for you. Name the trade-off before you buy, check on your debt, choose your partner carefully, and keep one habit before you chase 5. 10 rules, maybe 15 seconds to say out loud. A lot longer to actually live, but nowhere near as complicated as you thought 2 minutes ago. You get to pick which woman you're building toward. Start with whichever rule just made you the slightest bit uncomfortable. If none of them did, you're probably already doing better than you think. If one of them did, that's not an accident. That's the one to start with. Tell me in the comments which one that was. I read every single one.